Hello, I'm Julian Steckel, I'm a cellist, and I welcome you to today's Handler music tutorial, where we will have a look together at the cello concerto in D major by Joseph Haydn. Let's start with the first movement. The first entrance of the solo cello is in bar 29, but I personally have decided to join the orchestra during the whole tutti, and it starts in a very relaxed way compared to what we in our position as a soloist will have to do later. It's just, and I like that very much because there are great difficulties coming later. So let's jump to bar 29, to the first entrance of the solo cello. I have a little trick. I'm touching the D string just a little bit to make it ring. It might help to avoid scratchy problems, you know, when the string doesn't speak. So that might help just a little bit. So first I'll talk a little bit what's important, and then I'll try to follow and to play, as I said, one should. So we're in D major. This is a really singing key. It's very much cantabile. It's full of joy and full of warmth and light and sun, in a way, for me, you know, very personal. Technically speaking, I think it's important that the little slurs that we have here, that they, you know, they deserve justice. And it means that we should not play too much sostenuto in a romantic style, but rather really classic, or, you know, with some energy. So the second note under the slur should always be lighter and not connected to the next note. So the first challenge is already in the second bar, so that is bar 30. How do we come from that position into this one without an accident? You might have heard that I play a little left-hand pizzicato, which I hope at least won't be heard in the first row already. And it does help me, of course, to know that I'm hopefully in the right place. Yeah, and what I'm also telling me is something that is a general advice is we should think much more with the right hand. I was talking about articulation, of course, but I'm also talking about a general way of playing. So the idea, especially when we're nervous and in the first bars, when we, you know, try to find our place, it helps me a lot to put more weight into the bow and less weight into the left hand. So play very economically the left hand and with a lot of you know, effort and love, and, you know, with a low shoulder, so we shouldn't lift the shoulder too much. And so that would be also general advice for the very beginning. We all know that Haydn D major is one of the most important works in the repertoire because it is asked in all auditions for orchestra jobs, for example. It means that as students, this is one of the pieces that we have to practice the most, because at the end we have to play it. There's no way around it, and that's also a little tragedy, I think, because a lot of this joy and you know, the beauty of the piece is taken away by this, you know, by this feeling that we have to be perfect, and unfortunately that's true. We have to, of course, deliver a certain standard of playing, but again, it's the same as my little psychological advice. Think with your right arm, go with the sound, go with the expression. That's the only thing that we can do. Perfection doesn't exist anyways. So let's always focus on what is beautiful in this piece and not what should be perfect. Let's jump to bar 41. 6 tuplets here. Why are these so comfortable? Well, because it's not in the thumb position. So finally we can breathe out and say, something that is not so difficult. For me, it's like hugging someone also. So why do I stop here in bar 42? what I have in my music is a crossed accent. So it means don't play an accent there. Don't play, because this is a light beat. And the scale afterwards, the scale that starts on the A, bar 42, doesn't start here, but of course I'm very much exaggerating now. But I think it's an important thing to talk about. If you'd play an accent on all these beats, the whole musical flow would become very vertical, or one would actually not have a musical flow. So let's rather try to find and to maintain a horizontal feeling than too many accents in a bar line, in a bar. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is bar 50, which is the beginning of, which is the second theme. I'll play that. So that's the first 4 bars of the second theme. Actually, this is the second theme. And again, very melodical, lyrical, cantabile. And what is the challenge here? If we look at the score, we see that in the viola part, there's something like. And I find that even funny because one could expect that the cello soloist wants to take a lot of freedom and you know, play longer here and more free there, and the viola's there saying no, you shouldn't do this. Of course, again, as I said in the example before, we have always to look for freedom of the movement and not to play too regularly. So there's again this little contradiction of a rhythmical element and a certain cantabile flow. So this gives us a frame within we can move pretty freely, but not outside of this frame. Yeah? The next example. Let's have a look together at bar 69. I'll start half a bar earlier in 68. This is the D major scale. Here we have a 10th, and it's one of the places that you know, we tend to pull up our shoulder and breathe in and hold our breath because it's a difficult place. So again, what helps me is the idea of, or not even the idea, the fact of connecting Now I have exaggerated because one should at the end not hear this shift, but the idea that it is connected, this helps me a lot. Well, this is definitely a place one has to practice. So whenever I have this wonderful concerto in my schedule, that's one of the places that I'll look at. Let's visit another beautiful place, bar 100. So we have an interesting bass line here. Reminds me sometimes a little bit of a James Bond movie. And how I practice this is with a lot of activity in my right hand. Generally, that is something that I would advise to practice. It's always better, or it's always good, you know, to have a good finger fitness. Even though in the end one, of course, doesn't play it like that. So of course, a combination of all pieces and joints that we have, you know, with an open elbow, a pretty relaxed wrist, and very active fingers that are always able to control the bow. Yeah? Okay, the next place, another big spot for cellists, 107, the rocket. I'll try to make it work, this rocket. Yeah, so this is also one of the very exposed places. I mean, general tendencies is that we are running like crazy because this is a difficult place. And what I would, how I would practice this is cut it into different pieces. Yeah, we will not talk about a lot of the recap now, since many things are repeated in a more or less similar way. But we definitely have to talk about the bar and the following bars, 169. I'll first play these bars and then we'll talk about it. And so on. So again, it's a very exposed place where we are entering the really high register, and we have to shine and to sing and look relaxed and sound relaxed. And we know that this is a difficult place. So what I do is to practice this place from different angles, to look at it from different angles. Of course, I will practice it dotted. And from the other way around. Then I will play it with a very soft hand, very relaxed, like, long cooked, overcooked spaghetti hand. Yeah? Almost with no articulation, and then exactly the opposite. The next bit is exactly the same, and then we have this longer line here. Before I was talking about the right shoulder and the idea that the more difficult the material gets, the more we should think with our right arm. That definitely is the case here. Let's have a look at 173 again. This is the conclusion of these both things before, and I built this up like putting pancake over pancake. It's a little bit annoying for your neighbors maybe, but I'm showing it anyway. And so on and so on and so on, until you have finally reached your destination up there, hopefully. And then you should sing as free as a bird and enjoy that you have reached this magnificent area of the cello. And let's have a look at the second movement. Let's have a look at the beginning. Haydn writes Adagio. We have a 2/4 bar in A major, and we play a wonderful, very simple in its best sense, in its best way, motive together with the violins. I'll demonstrate that. I think it's important, although it's an adagio, that we don't get stuck. So there should still be some flow within the line. So the adagio applies rather for the quarters than for the eighth notes, for the eighth beats, I think. While looking at the phrase, I think it's important to see that we have 2 bars belonging to that together. That's the first bar, now second bar. Third and fourth bar really building a unity. And now let's continue in the 5th bar and try to really create the phrase of 4 bars together. And let's not get stuck. I'll try. In the 5th bar and also in the 6th bar, and also this is a general thing, it's worth talking about, these small notes here, they should be really free and personal and rhetoric. Yeah? And also, I think it's even necessary that they shouldn't have the same slur, for example. Rather something quasi improvisando. For example, yeah. So I mean, in the best way, do what you want, but do what you're convinced of. Let's go to bar 17, where I think we enter a little bit of a different role. While in the beginning we were really playing together with the violins, I think we can feel a little bit more freely here, and also more shining, more sunny in the sound. I'll try, and then we continue right away with the next example. Which is here now. So we are entering bar 21 with a pickup. And that is the highest register so far of this movement. And what is important, that we don't pull back full of anxiety and stress, but just do the opposite. Really opening up. Opening up technically for me means I'll try to remember to lower my shoulder, to remember myself that I can actually breathe and that I'm not holding my breath while going up into this register, but just really trying to relax. Also very important, while changing the register, the bow also needs to go a little bit closer to the bridge. This makes the sound much more brilliant than... That might also be beautiful, but maybe not in this place. Let's go to let's have a look at another example in bar 43, where we have a nice surprise, I think. Suddenly we're in C major. It's a little bit bold in a way, and I also think we can try to display that sudden change of mood, sudden change of character, by not playing too shyly, but one little technical thing we have here in bar 43, right at the beginning, there's quite a big stretch that we have to master between the G and the C. It looks uncomfortable, and it is uncomfortable, I have to say. What is the challenge here? While opening up the hand, there's the danger of changing the intonation. So that is something that we have to avoid, and I try to avoid that by not falling with the hand into this direction, but turning it around like that. Just a few bars later, in bar 47, we have a unison with the violins. Which is pretty difficult, because whether I'm out of tune or the violins are out of tune, the result is the same. So what we can only try, because I can't control the violins, which is fine, is that I'm trying to create a sound that mixes well and that doesn't stick out, that doesn't stand out. So not too brilliantly, but rather warm. Not too much bow pressure. Of course, we still have to play with a certain substance. Let's have a look at the last example, which we find in bar 52. It's the return to the beginning, so to say, or the beginning revisited. So we have a little bridge between this opening E with the fermata pretty brilliantly yet. And then we start in the lower octave with a more or less chromatic scale. That is a certain turning point, I think. I have a little wolf note there. Still, I'm trying to... I could kill the wolf by just playing loudly. But I'm looking for exactly the opposite sound. Almost something sleepy, dreamy, extremely soft and dolce. As if we were only remembering the beginning of this beautiful movement. And now let's see what the third movement brings. Let's have a look at the beginning. Haydn writes Allegro, it's a 6/8 bar. What comes in mind first, at least in my mind, is a song, a folk song, a children's song, something very playful, something very light and joyful. The structure is pretty easy. We have 8 bars, 2 times 2 and then 4, so we know that already from the second movement. And the little extra thing is where we return into the theme. Every time we reach it is bar 8. We have a little fermata. And this fermata invites us to be creative again. So there are possibilities to play little tiny cadenzas, little personalizations, so to say, into the next tutti again. I'll play it once and then try to explain again at the fermata what I mean with these little cadenzas. That was the fermata without any extra. When it comes back later in the piece, one could, for example, play... Or one could play... This is actually what he writes later. Or, for example... But I don't want, I don't want to give more examples because that's exactly the fun of inventing little treasures there. It shouldn't be too much, it shouldn't be too long, it should always be in style. Let's always remember that this is a Haydn concerto, not a Dvorak or Prokofiev. And yeah, let's look at the next example, which is bar 17, a very dancey thing. What we will check out especially is bar 22, 23, and I will first play and then explain why. So if we take a closer look at bar 22 and 23, what is important to not give the third eighth note and the sixth eighth note of each bar a push, rather the opposite. So how do we practice this? Very slowly, of course. Back and forth. What I'm imagining is that I'm drawing a little circle with my right hand, lifting the bow and landing very carefully. A soft touch down, rather not like this. So when we play this back in real tempo and it gets more spicy, this ensures us that we don't play because that's not what we want. Let's have a look at the next place, which is bar 50. Haydn, so to say, turns the temperature a notch up. It becomes more difficult and more difficult, and I'll give it a little try now. So this entrance comes pretty out of nowhere, so to say, but there's an idea that might help or might not. When I play this piece with orchestra, I always play the tuttis as well. And in the cello and bass section, in the bar before our entry, that would be bar 49, we find this. So that might help. You can try it out. In bar 51, we have a little special challenge. These double steps, how do we practice them? I would always suggest to split the voices, meaning first we play the upper voice with the right hand, of course, with the bow arm, but we also play the lower voice, but we don't touch the string, the right arm. So I play both voices with the left hand, but only one voice, the right hand. The lower voice would then be... What I also try to avoid are little bumps in the bow, so it should not be... So the right hand should not react to what the second and the third fingers are doing here, but be independent and play legato. We come to the next place, very close, it's bar 54. Again, I try to play it now in tempo. So you might have seen that there's a lot of stuff going on, and I have to be honest, this is one of the places that I'm happy when they're successfully over. Let's put it like that. How do I practice this? What is important, or what's the difficulty here, is that we travel from that position into the next one, because we don't have a lot of time. So we have to come from the A string down to the G string, and also with our third finger from the upper F sharp to this C sharp. So what I do is putting a little stop here. Stop, stop. And when I say stop, in the very moment I have to be in full position for the next little pattern. Stop, stop. That wasn't good. Stop. Again, a little slowlier. Stop. Okay, I'm ready, I think, I hope. Stop. Ready? Yes. Stop. That might be a little dry, so to say, but I have to say that this always helped me a lot. Always cut difficult places in smaller patterns, then put them together again, and I think that might make your life easier. Let's have a little look at bar 66 and 67. In 67 we have a huge jump down from the C string up here. So it's really here to there. And, you know, I mean, this can be a pretty impressive gesture if it works. So, and what I'm trying to achieve here is a little bit like in soccer, a no-look pass. So I'm trying not to panic and try to find the note with my eyes. It doesn't help anyway. But really take my time and gain trust. If it works 3 times, fingers crossed now, almost, then I add 3 times, and if it works, then I'm sure that it works. Again, I suggest left comes first, and then right. Good luck with this place. If it works, it's really fun. If not, not so much. The next place would be bar 70, where Haydn starts to play around with a rhythm. So 70 would be compared to bar 72, 2 bars later, where he just starts the slur 1/8 note later. And I would not try to hide it in bar 72 by playing accents on the beats, but really playing the wrong, so to say, wrong start of the slur in the wrong place, which makes this place much more spicy and much more fun. Let's go to another place. That would be bar 119. We are not in this major anymore. So we have the same theme in minor, weather change, everything gets dark and pretty dramatic. And to add to this drama, Haydn gives us a big challenge, very virtuosic octaves that we have to master. And I'm first giving it a try, and then I'll explain how I try to play this. Well, you see, this is a difficult place. So how do I practice this? First, I only take the octave, so I'll leave aside the changing notes. What is important that the lower octave is always a little bit stronger than the upper one. It helps the intonation. Now we practice the changing notes here. And the third finger or the second finger or the first finger, they must be very active. Otherwise, it will just be covered by all this sound/noise that this place brings with it. Unfortunately, Haydn also gives us another challenge in bar 123. It's the same place, but just in a very much higher register. And so on. So the same practicing principles apply for that place, of course. We should also keep in mind that these octave places will come back later in bar 159 and 163. And in my experience, although the whole movement bursts of energy and lightness and virtuosic places, these octaves, this octave playing takes a lot of energy from the right hand. So take that in mind while practicing. That is also a question of how often you can play these octaves, because they don't only come once, they come 4 times. Thank you very much for watching Handel Music tutorial and my little insight into the third movement of the cello concerto in D major by Joseph Haydn. Thank you.